Now,
Hi, friends. Here we are again with all of you with our Green Talks. And I thank you, all of you, for the motivation that you people have been giving us. And the gratitude is there for all of you. And today we are again here with another session of Green Talks. We started this series long back, utilizing the time of lockdown, but now it has become a passion in Tanash, and we are enjoying this session along with you. So, friends, sustainable design is no longer the way of the future. It's all important at present and will reward the communities that embrace it. It is important to address sustainable architecture because the practice is almost scarcely extinct in Indian cities. Also, there seems to be some ambiguity on what exactly constitutes sustainable architecture. The key to architectural sustainability is to work with rather than against nature to sensitively exploit and simultaneously avoid damaging natural systems. Architectural sustainability mirrors the view that it is necessary to position human activities as a non damaging part of the ongoing ecological landscape, with the belief that nature knows best. If one accepts the simple proposition that nature is the arena of life and a modicum of knowledge of her process is indispensable for survival and rather more for existence, health, and life. It is amazing that how many apparently difficult problems present a ready solution. India is now the second largest market for green buildings. This trend is completely market driven and has been achieved with very little government support. While this sounds fantastic, there is an urgent need in India to extend the technological understanding of sustainable architecture and to incorporate socio-cultural aspects in its production. A green architecture is one which incorporates several green features and facilities. The appearance of a green architecture is similar to any other architectural design. However, the difference is in the functionality. Its intention, which revolves around a concern for extending the lifespan of natural resources, provide human comfort, safety, and productivity. This approach results in a reduction of operating costs like energy, water, and other natural resources, besides several other intangible benefits. Sustainable architecture and their acceptance has been a relatively recent trend in the developing countries as compared to the developed world. Thus, the recent trend in India suggests a rapid adoption of sustainability in construction. So, let us discuss and learn about the rising scope of sustainable architecture in India from our own Dr. Roshni Udyar Yehuda, Director of Roshni Udyawar Associates and President of Institute of Environmental Architecture and Research, IEAR Mumbai. I welcome you, Roshni ji. It's amazing to have gone through your profile and knowing your contribution and achievement for promoting and practicing sustainability. As I said, seeing your profile, it needs a lot of more ages to have that experience. And my words are very small to describe your introduction. And still, I'll try to compile. Roshni ji has a PhD in resource management on structural configuration and thermal behavior of buildings and master's degree in architecture. She is a qualified master trainer and impaneled expert on the Energy Conservation Building Codes of India, awarded by the BEE UNDP GEF collaboration, Government of India in February 2015. She has completed a course on renewable energy as a catalyst for regional development organized by Ministry of Foreign Affairs Israel November-December 2018. She is a co-chair for ASSOCHAM GEM Maharashtra chapter. She served as head operations for the project on promoting clean and energy efficient cold chain in India for MP in Systems Advisory Private Limited in collaboration with Shakti. She is principal investigator in the DST for project on developing energy efficient and ECBC compliant opaque wall assembly for warm, humid and hot dry climate in India. Being conducted under the Science and Technology Park where she serves as advisor environment and sustainability. Also a member of Building Envelope Subcommittee for Development of India Building Energy Efficiency Standards, ISHRE, held at September 2020. She has garnered a wide range of practical experience in environmental research, pedagogy, and implementation from 1997 to 2003 at the International Institute for Sustainable Future, a United Nations NGO DPI affiliated organization based in Mumbai and New York. She has traveled widely for professional presentations, lecture, and study programs related to sustainable development in 20 countries. So, Roshni ji, I have tried to communicate major of the contribution. Still, if I have skipped something, you can add on. And I heartily welcome you to the platform of Green Talks. Welcome.
Thank
So,
you, Neetu ji. Thank you.
yeah, and I know, Roshni ji, it has been a very short notice for you this time, but we really feel thankful that in this short notice also you have accepted our proposal. So thanks a lot again.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. I know that you have been very active during the lockdown period, and I have been following the Green Talks, and the kind of programs that you have been having here, the kind of people. So I think it's really an honor to be here and be part of this program. And you're doing a great work.
Thank you, ma'am. This effort is just with one objective that we have to reach to the common citizen and to the masses. So this is just a small initiative for that. Thanks a lot for appreciating. So, as per the protocol of Green Talk, we'll be having few questionnaires, and we'll also put in questions like which our audience will put on the Facebook. This is actually going streamlined face on Facebook live. So, I'll start with one of the questions that how sustainable architecture is different from conventional architecture, and how did you end up in such offbeat, unconventional, and cool career?
If I have to say in a single sentence how sustainable architecture is different from conventional architecture, I would say that it means to be more sensitive to the environment, to be more careful about everything in the environment on your site. As for an architect, site is the important thing. So when practicing sustainable architecture, you have to be careful about what kind of soil, what kind of trees are there, what is the biodiversity, and kind of be sensitive to all of these things. And you may think that one small thing, ये छोटे चीज से क्या फर्क पड़ेगा, but every small thing that we do, whether in the choice of the materials, so instead of using something carbon intensive like cement, if you're using mud or stabilized earth blocks or using bamboo, then small things make a large difference. So water on the site, instead of getting water from elsewhere by tankers, if we are harvesting water on the site and making use of it, so that also matters a lot. If you're recycling your waste, if you're doing small things, so every small thing in this sustainable architecture matters a lot, and every person has a role to play in this. uh, the the third thing, so the first thing was about being more sensitive, the second thing is everything matters, and the third thing is planning and designing in coordination. So conventional architecture में कैसा है कि the architect or the engineer makes a plan, a detailed working drawing, and then he says अभी इसको execute कर लो. लेकिन सस्टेनेबल आर्किटेक्चर में ऐसा नहीं होता है, सब लोग साथ में बैठते हैं. दैट इज द बिग डिफरेंस in design or and planning stage mein there is a lot of work. Everybody sits together, charts out the part. For example, an electrical consultant who is just not supposed to do the electrical wiring, he will say what kind of bulbs to be put, which are energy efficient, what kind of equipment which will draw less energy, or the plumbing person will have to be involved अगर हमको recycle करना है waste को, तो right in the beginning, so gray water and black water को segregate करना है, या
Hmm.
फिर हमको किसी renewable energy expert को बुलाना है, तो right in the beginning we can say कि इस घर में हम लोग इतना percentage of energy we can do using renewable energy. So everything is at the design and planning stage. So this is one big change from the conventional architecture, where everything was done and given for execution. So that's not how sustainable architecture works. That's in few sentences if you had to say. But there are lots of things that goes into what makes a sustainable architecture. The three pillars are energy, water, and waste.
Hmm.
So when we design a sustainable house, a sustainable building, a sustainable factory, or anything, we see to it that these three areas, the resources are conserved, the resources are recycled. So the main paradigm is how we can use less resources. So in the planning of energy, we make sure that firstly the building is, energy efficient. It doesn't heat or cool extensively, and then in order to feel comfortable, we'll put an air conditioning system. So first place itself, the building is energy efficient. And of course, we have a lot of examples from our history to see how to make buildings in that manner. And same thing about water and waste. So energy, water, and waste. So water, for example, you can do rainwater harvesting. You can use efficient fixtures so that you are not using excess water, or you can recycle the waste, at least the gray water, if not the black water. And where it is possible, even the black water can be recycled and can be reused within the site somewhere. And also about the solid waste can be, recycled, so that it doesn't go into a dumping ground. We don't send things and load the municipal infrastructure. Then there are other things like indoor environment quality. Okay, so the indoor environment quality is a key factor in a sustainable architecture. That is, we see to it that people are able to breathe good, fresh air. There is no contamination, there is no toxicity, there is no build-up of toxic materials or pollutants within the house. What kind of materials you use. So the main thumb rule of materials is that we are using low embodied energy materials, and materials which can help in energy efficiency, with materials which are recyclable or recycled or reused, something like that. And the overall idea is to reduce the carbon footprint
Hmm.
of the entire design.
Hmm.
One more important point, how conventional architecture, sustainable architecture is different from conventional architecture, is about the landscape. That in this scenario, we don't try to make an aesthetic landscape, which is, of course, as an architect, one can always do. But the more important idea is to conserve the biodiversity in
Hmm.
that site. What are the plants and animals which are existing, how we can see to it that they continue to live there without us disturbing them, or what are the trees and how those trees are other, if they are important, if they are native, how we can conserve them. Most of the times what happens is people clear up the site, सब कुछ साफ करके फिर घर
Hmm.
बनाते हैं, then you bring
बिल्कुल
in the topsoil, then you bring in the trees, new trees.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल
ऐसे होता है. So that is,
या
I think, sustainable architecture in a nutshell.
वेरी ट्रू। पहले यही प्रैक्टिस ज्यादा हुआ करती थी कि बैरन लैंड लिया, उसको पूरा डिमोलिश करके उसको प्लेन किया, फिर फाउंडेशन, और ये सब आप बहुत सही बोल रही हैं। या
जी.
या So, how did you end up in such offbeat, unconventional, and cool career? So that part is remaining from the question.
So I think after my graduation, I did work with an architect, continuing with my internship, and then I worked with two or three architects, in fact, in order to get a full experience of what it is to be an architect, from the site to the drawings to everything I did. But then there was a lot of frustration that this architecture is not the kind of architecture that I imagine. So, for example, I worked in SRA schemes, जिसमें घरें ऐसे थे कि किसी को light and ventilation भी नहीं मिल रहा था.
Hmm.
So you see this kind of vertical slums being built, and as a fresh graduate of architecture, you feel very disillusioned कि मुझे यही बनाने के लिए 5 साल लगे. So that was a big disillusionment. So therefore, I was looking for opportunities to work in something that is more sensible. And I was very fortunate to become part of an institute called IISF, International Institute for Sustainable Future. At that time, the director of this institute was Dr. Rashmi Mayur, who
Hmm.
was an internationally known environmentalist. He used to be a very top advisor to United Nations Development Program and to many other countries around the world. So I got an opportunity to work with him. And for 5 years, practically, I had that experience. So everything I've learned about environment is by being in that institute, because we worked on all grounds. Like we worked on tribal medicines in Dahanu, we worked on energy management with BSES company, or we worked internationally on projects related to renewable energy. So
Mhm.
it was a lot of exposure, a lot of reading, and of course, it involved a lot of research as well. So my job, part of my job was to spend time in libraries reading. I mean, nobody is as lucky as that. So I got the time to read a lot of literature, from Rachel Carson to, all the people, Paul and Anne L. Reach, and all the great people who wrote about environment, including Indian environmentalists. I got a chance to read about them, and that formed the basis of what I should do. And then I was lucky in around 2002 that we set up in 98 actually, an international conference on sustainable architecture was organized in collaboration with the Rachna Sansad's Academy of Architecture and our institute, in which we had people from all over the world who talked about sustainable architecture and design. And at the end of it, it was decided that a course should be launched. At
Mhm.
that time, Professor Sumant Vandrekar, who was the chairperson of Rachna Sansad, and Dr. Rashmi Mayur together decided that let us launch a new course, a PG course on environmental architecture. So in those days, it was very new, but with the Professor Nishi Fonge, who then started it, we went to approach the Maharashtra Technical Board. We together prepared a syllabus along with many others, and we submitted it to the board. And then that was the beginning. Later on, I mean, very shortly afterwards, unfortunately, we lost Professor Fonge, and Professor Vandrekar invited me to become the head of department
Oh,
very early on
great.
in that institute. So that was almost in 2002-3. So that's when I joined the institute to start a PG diploma, and then later on we developed it into a master's program in 2006. But that gave me a lot of insights into not just environmental architecture, but also education, because that was a completely new field for me, how to conduct education. But this was a good challenge, and I had a very good team, and they're still with me. The Institute of Environmental Architecture that I now head, my entire team who started with me there in Rachna Sansad, they are with me, and we are taking the same work forward.
ग्रेट ग्रेट एंड यू आर रियली लकी इनफ और इन्वायरमेंट के लिए जब हम काम करते हैं ना तो आप किसी भी तरीके से कोई एक पॉइंट पे अगर आप जुड़ते हो ना तो वापस से लुक बैक नहीं होता है बिकॉज आई कैन फील दैट बिकॉज एक बार अगर आईजीबीसी से जुड़ी हूँ मैं और सस्टेनेबिलिटी और ग्रीन मूवमेंट के लिए जब अवेयरनेस क्रिएट हुआ तो वो जो एक इंस्पिरेशन मिलती है उसके बाद यू डोंट वांट टू लुक बैक एंड डोंट वांट टू डू एनीथिंग एल्स देन लाइक टू प्रमोट सस्टेनेबिलिटी सो आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड दैट एंड यू आर रियली लकी इनफ और आप अभी भी अगर वो इंस्टीट्यूट में काम कर रहे हैं एंड हेड कर रहे हैं तो इट्स रियली ग्रेट सैल्यूट टू यू थैंक सो मैम बट क्या हम लोग जब सस्टेनेबल आर्किटेक्चर जब अडॉप्ट करते हैं तो आपको ऐसा लगता है कि कई बार एस्थेटिक्स के साथ कुछ कॉम्प्रोमाइज करना पड़ता है या वो नहीं होता ऐसा कुछ
एक्चुअली ऐसा नहीं है। हम लोग अगर नेचर में देखेंगे तो एस्थेटिक्स इज वेरी मच पार्ट ऑफ नेचर। नेचर में ऐसे कोई खराब या अगली चीज तो होती नहीं है। तो ये जो है डिजाइन और थिंकिंग, मतलब जो क्रिएटिविटी है डिजाइनर की या आर्किटेक्ट की,
उस पे डिपेंड
उनके ऊपर
करेगा
डिपेंडेंट है कि हाउ टू मेक
दैट्स
द
ट्रू
एस्पेक्ट्स एस्थेटिक। एंड
दैट्स
वी कैन ऑलवेज लर्न फ्रॉम नेचर। नेचर में कोई भी चीज
या सो as an architect, how do you feel sustainability is progressing in the market and among professionals?
जैसे अगली है।
How can architects imitate the nature in order to design sustainable architecture?
I think I missed a certain points. हम थोड़ा सा internet connection was weak. So can you just repeat that?
Yeah. As an architect, how do you feel sustainability is progressing in the market and among professionals? And how can architects imitate the nature in order to design sustainable architecture?
Uh, okay. So in terms of how it is progressing, it's very difficult to say unless you do some kind of a study. But generally देखा जाए तो पहले से बहुत ज़्यादा अवेयरनेस है स्टूडेंट्स में, और ऐसे कई लोगों की थॉट भी है कि सस्टेनेबल आर्किटेक्चर नहीं होना चाहिए, सब कुछ architecture itself should be sustainable. Like if you go and discuss about green architecture in places like Germany, they would say it is not required because architecture
It
को
has to be.
sustainability होना चाहिए. So
उसका
in that sense,
डेफिनेशन ही ऐसा होना
हाँ
चाहिए.
बिल्कुल, all of these things should be integrated. So
Yeah.
so जैसे हम लोग PG course, I was involved in running a PG course, postgraduate. Whereas later on, I know that Mumbai University and many universities in the country, they, as per a Supreme Court ruling, they directive, they included education में environmental education. So it was made mandatory to include environmental education in professional education. So things such as sustainable planning, sustainable architecture, sustainability in materials, electives में sustainability, ये सब जो है include तो हो गए हैं definitely. And that's a big change because पहले ये नहीं था, हमारे टाइम पे तो नहीं था.
Hmm.
But now all of those things have been added. The
Hmm.
good thing about it is that at least ये जो words हैं वो मतलब at least people know about it, and the students can learn on their own in case they are not guided.
Hmm.
बहुत unfortunate चीज ये है कि सब जगह पे there are not enough resource persons to guide the student in the right manner.
That's
And
very important. Yes.
and most important is the integration. Okay, you teach theory,
Hmm.
but how to incorporate in design is far more important, which is not always done. So this I think that in as compared to before, maybe there is a lot of emphasis on sustainability everywhere. People are saying about reuse and recycle. And recently I was reviewing, I was part of an international design research conference at
Hmm.
Aditya College in Mumbai, and I was amazed at the kind of papers I reviewed from all over the world actually. But how people are beginning to think in a completely new direction in terms of recyclability of spaces also. कि spaces को कैसे recycle करके use कर सकते हैं, how no space can be a dead space, how spaces can be used in different ways. Or even in terms of materials, जैसे for example, plastic waste is a big issue. So how plastic waste can be recycled and can be used as shading devices in buildings, or how metals can be recycled or reformed and electroformed and used.
Hmm.
मतलब इस तरीके से काफी काफी new ideas आ रहे हैं, and I'm so happy to see
Hmm.
that students are now thinking in a different direction. So I hope
Okay.
that this will help. Coming to the second part, you asked about imitation of how can we learn from imitating nature. So in nature, there are some general principles. For example, I always give the example of the Amazon forest.
Hmm.
In the Amazon forest, there is no resource. Like when we want to when we want to start agriculture, even if you want to grow a simple thing like rice, you need good soil first of all. So हम लोग soil को till करते हैं, उसमें कुछ add करते हैं, वो करते हैं, like all those things you have to do. Whereas in the Amazon forest, the maximum amount of biodiversity of the whole planet exists there, and
Hmm.
it is believed that even the climate of the entire earth is controlled by part of this small part of the earth. And if you look at it, there are no resources. So the design here is the resource, the combination of the various trees, the biodiversity,
Hmm.
the cooperation of various things in nature. So cooperation is a very important principle that we can learn from nature. We can learn also that waste is a resource. In the Amazon forest, there is no waste. Waste
Hmm.
is a resource. then there is harmony and balance. So
Yes.
there may be lots of different types of species living in one place, but there is a kind of balance. So there is a balance that is maintained, and because balance is the balance of energy, that is the balance of the biomass, the balance of biodiversity, everything. So all of these things, and of course aesthetics, nothing looks really bad, everything is beautiful and surprising and mysterious. So there are many things to learn from nature, and I think what I probably have said is just a few elements. There are
Hmm.
more things that people can learn from nature.
Yeah, so nice, nicely explained. So we seem to hear something new about the threats of climate change almost weekly. Is this a concern too among architects in the education sector, or the students and the professionals, the uh, like masters taking masters degree, the outcoming young people?
Yes, I think young people graduating are all very much concerned, more concerned than those who are already in practice, that their work should be somehow not against or should not increase the essential aspects of climate change. So energy efficiency is one of the major focuses, and therefore uh, I think that upcoming architects
Hmm.
are looking forward to see that how their work will be more and more sensitive and more sustainable.
Hmm.
I think yes, there is a trend towards that.
Nice. Um, do you see any gap in the movement of sustainable architecture and its real-time implementation, and what's the challenge for this gap?
Mm, there is a gap, of course, in terms of implementation. We have still reached a very small percentage of buildings are green. But then again, I want to point out here that this sustainable architecture is maybe for the past 2 decades. This idea of sustainable architecture, which has mainly come from the West. We
Hmm.
started with the idea of green buildings
Hmm.
coming from Leadership for Energy and Environmental Design, somewhere around 2000 2001. That was where the idea came from. But I always point out that look at India, it is full of sustainable architecture. You are
Hmm.
very well aware. I was in Baroda and we went to the poles and we looked at the architecture. We saw that they have rainwater harvesting tanks below their houses. We saw that they are using materials which are, which have lasted for so many years, which are more durable than cement and concrete. And we have seen that they have designs which provide energy efficiency without doing any masters, without doing anything else. So there is, I believe that even though there is sustainable architecture is new in terms of the Western idea of
Hmm.
sustainable architecture is new. In India, this idea has been there, and we should be very proud of it. We should be learning from our heritage, from our ancestors, from our old houses, and trying to improve the and trying to uh, at least learn the principles and adapt them towards this. In terms of gap in implementation, I think, uh, for example, the Energy Conservation Building Code has not been implemented. And that's because in many cases there is no clear idea of how to implement it. What are the different players? What is their role? All these details have not been identified. Even in cases like environmental impact assessment or environmental clearance. So this
Hmm.
is a big thing, you are
Hmm.
probably aware that lots of projects who are, more than 20,000 square meters, they have to go through the environment clearance process.
Hmm.
There is no clear idea of, in terms of monitoring these projects, whether they are really green over a period of time after 10 years. Are they really recycling their water? Are they, are there many changes they have made to their facade, to the kind of green materials that they have used? Is it changed? Are they changing their fittings and equipments and so on? So I mean, that process and mechanism has not been done. And I think people are also in fact responsible, because they are not aware of the long term implications of this the importance of these measures that have been taken. So even the policies need to be framed in a way that it takes into consideration every stakeholder. So, for example, first we have developer who builds the house, and then we have people who are staying there. So the cooperative housing society becomes the owner or something. So we have to think from the perspective of every person who is going to use the house, and how we can get them to implement and continue to implement and monitor the improvements in the environment and sustainability.
Yes. And I think at times, like I've seen that, like after like certain, for example, ETP, STP, all these things are incorporated. But like the maintenance of that, like long-term maintenance of that also becomes a hassle. And finding the right person to manage all those things are also very important, the facilitating manager. So because I've seen few industries also where these facilities are there, but then at times they just close it down because it is not, it's like somebody is not, because the owners are not the technical person, so they are not able to give their time, and then they are not finding the right person exactly to take care of the because recently I actually visited one of the industries, and I found that like though they are having the facility, but they are not using it because the right person is not there in place. So that also becomes one of the challenge in implementation.
Absolutely right about the facility manager, for example,
Yeah.
you pointed out. So recently, I was, we collaborated with a group of other two NGOs who are working in solid waste management, and we were discussing exactly this point. So, for example, in Bombay, they made a regulation that everybody should compost their own waste in
Hmm.
their premises. uh, it's probably not practical to do this, because many building plots are very small. They don't have space for doing the recycling work. They probably do not have the skills and the technical skills for
Yes.
maintaining it, and therefore they may result in very many other things. Health issues may arise. There can
Yes.
be rats and rodents and mosquitoes and many other things. Who will be responsible? Because it becomes the realm of public health and safety.
Yeah.
So so that was a policy decision, but without thought. So if there was a proper thought, is it possible in all the buildings? If not, then can it be done at a ward level? And then
Yes.
if it has to be done at a ward level, then we will require a team of say 1,000 people to segregate this. So those
That's
people
true.
need to be trained, so we can give employment to people from slums and other areas in this.
Yeah.
So one of the groups I know, they started Green Communities Foundation. They started to train people from the slums in solid waste management. But then again, there has to be a marriage between that organization and the municipal corporation, and they
That's
have
true.
to take things together forward. So many times this kind of thing happens mainly because people are not consulted, and people are also not interested. They are in their own world.
Yeah.
But when it comes on their head, then they start do things abhi kuch to kar dete hain, some kind
Hmm.
of thing. So most of the people, for example, rainwater harvesting is mandatory in new buildings. Solid waste management is but most of the buildings end up just doing some kind of a thing at the time of inspection, and
Yeah.
then it's just gone. It's just for the
Yeah.
name's sake. It's not real.
That's very true. Very true. So Roshni ji, can net zero building, because now net zero after green building, exactly net zero is the buzzword. So can net zero building target be achieved at a manageable cost? Have there been any developments that have expanded the possibilities for neglected facilities? Is it reasonable to expect that great things can be done at every site?
Uh, maybe in high density places it is a bit difficult to achieve net zero, but that is you can achieve a percentage of at least try to achieve a percentage of that. So you asked initially about net zero energy, right? So
At a
net
manageable cost.
at a manageable cost. So the only thing in net zero energy which involves cost is the renewable energy aspect of it. The rest of the things hardly are an investment, because if you do an investment in an efficient AC, or if you do an investment in an efficient lighting, or anything of that sort, it is not really, you get the payback within 6 months or 4 months, and we have enough examples of that. So if investing in those things, and investing in design costs you nothing. So in the initial stage itself, if your building is designed in a way that the envelope is not gaining more heat or losing more cold or anything like that, so if your building envelope is designed properly, then firstly you achieve 15 to 20% of your efficiency is achieved at that stage at no cost.
Hmm.
Then you invest in efficient equipment, which also can be recovered within 6 to 8 months, depending upon the type of equipment. And then lastly I'm talking about per unit, per housing unit. So this is the range of investment. And then finally, it is the renewable energy. So as far as renewable energy is concerned, the thing that is working is solar thermal hot water systems and solar photovoltaics. Solar hot water systems, now the price has come down drastically because of the increase in the usage
Hmm.
of the solar water heaters. I think that in many places, in many countries, this is mandatory to use solar water heater if you have so much amount of solar radiation falling. So that is hardly anything. The only thing that you would need to invest in is a solar photovoltaic which generate electricity for you.
Hmm.
But then again, if you're doing the first things, that is designing of envelope properly, designing and using the efficient equipment, then your total load of your solar
Hmm.
photovoltaic or renewable energy, or even wind power or solar wind hybrid, is going to be much less. And I
Hmm.
would think that maximum it would go to about 10 years of payback, depending
Hmm.
upon how much of. So in terms of going net zero is not at all difficult, especially if you do it at the planning stage itself. So a lot of investment in the proper design should give you the good results.
Hmm. Actually, I had like normally like the cost is going down for green technologies also, but recently exactly one of my friends made a compost pit, and he's doing a great job as a CSR project of wet waste management, and that is a iconic project of his like in one of the villages he's doing that to make that sustainable. And wet waste was collected, and then like now we are tomorrow we are going to inaugurate the compost pit. That compost pit is made of plastic waste bricks, and the bricks made of eco material, but the cost was more because like see, in something the cost has been reduced, but मैंने उनसे पूछा आपका ये ब्रिक वॉल का कॉस्ट ज्यादा क्यों है, तो बोले वो जो प्लास्टिक वेस्ट मतलब ही शोड द कंप्लीट साइकिल कि प्लास्टिक वेस्ट लेके खरीद लेकर आता है तो उसका कॉस्ट है, उसको स्टोर करके उसका है, फिर उसको वापस से रिसाइकिल करके उसका कॉस्ट है. तो लाइक दिस इज सच अ डिबेटेबल थिंग लाइक कहीं पे कॉस्ट इंक्रीज भी हो रहा है बिकॉज आप कलेक्ट भी कर रहे हो प्लास्टिक वेस्ट, उसको ट्रांसपोर्टेशन का कॉस्ट वापस जगह पे ऐसा है कि yes it is reducing also.
Hmm.
So this is just a debatable thing.
Yes, I think that is in this case, what there is a aspect called life cycle cost analysis.
Yes.
So that is what we do. If you compare two different technologies, say
Yes.
incandescent bulb and a CFL, so
Hmm.
you compare all of the things. The initial cost may be high, but energy cost is much low. So इस
Yes.
तरह से you can compare the two and then you can come to a result. And what we are also looking at is the ecological cost. Okay, the economical cost of paying upfront something is more, but is the ecological cost more? Now you're talking about transportation, so that is definitely not good, because what one of the principles of sustainable architecture is that you try and use as much local as
Local
possible.
material.
As soon as you try and use more and more resources from outside, the carbon footprint increases. So definitely that is something to be avoided.
Great. This costing to be done on the basis of LCA, this trend has yet to come.
Yes.
And we need to make people aware. Recently, I actually did a certification course of carbon emissions, like that is being organized by CII. And at that time, actually, I realized that yes, this is so important. And in the coming time, GHG emission accounting will be there, and this trend will be there along with the financial accounting.
Yes.
So yes, this trend needs to be adopted now.
True, true, true. Yes.
So, Roshni ji, as you are a member and scientific committee co-chair for 10th International Symposium on Youth Leadership and Climate Action, Canada, which will be conducted in July 2021, what is your view about youth leadership in India towards climate mitigation? And if you would like to know more about this symposium.
Okay. So this symposium was supposed to be organized in 2020, but you know what happened, and so we have postponed it to 2021. And it comprises of a team of people from all over the world who are, putting together this symposium. And there are two main aspects of this symposium. One part deals with youth leadership, because the organizing for the organization which is holding this is called Children Now, and they're working towards children in every sector. So the one major part is how to develop leadership skills among the youth, and the second thing is to direct those leadership skills towards climate mitigation, towards action for climate change. So these are the two main pillars of our of the symposium, and we are planning to. We have almost invited about 25 thought leaders from all over the world who will be debating this and discussing the main barriers to the implementation of climate action and so on for a period of two days. And simultaneously, they will also be interacting with youth. So there is going to be a competition that will be launched shortly for youth to give their ideas on how to mitigate climate change. And I'll probably share this also with you so that you can share it on your platform.
Yes.
This is open to any student anywhere in the world who can share their ideas, two or three ideas on, what if they had to give a speech in the United Nations on what are the things that need to be done to to stop the climate change and to improve the environment, then what would it be? I'll give you the details more, but then from among these we will be choosing the leaders, and and they will be presenting also at the conference. So there will be one part of parallel symposium going on, which will have the thought leaders interacting with the youth, mainly from Montreal and Canada will be there from various schools, but we'll also be having one or two selected groups or students from around the world who will be having something significant. uh,
Great.
as far as India is concerned, I think I would specifically like to highlight this part of the symposium, which is talking about youth leadership. And this may be something new because it is talking about empowering the youth with various skills such as decision making, skills such as critical thinking or creative thinking, or skills of empathy, uh, giving them a lot of or empowering or making them aware of the various values or the value system Like in India, we have values of respecting elders, we have family values, you know, there are so many values that every society has, but we are choosing to take those particular values which will also help in safeguarding of the environment. Today
Hmm.
there is a trend of competition. Whoever is the best will get everything, you know, sort of. There is no care for resources, so there is no idea of cooperation, harmony, balance, and helping out those who cannot do things or something like that. So the idea of this symposium is also to, for example, the idea of empathy, you know,
Hmm.
listening to people.
Hmm.
That is one very important concept that this symposium proposes. Empathy is the idea that you listen, you understand issues, you listen to your co-colleagues, your friends, and then you are able to do something positive for them.
Hmm.
So that is the idea behind the symposium, and I'll surely share more details with you
Yeah.
so that you can also, add to this.
Yeah, it will be great. Actually, my younger son, he exactly is doing BBA from Pune, and he's too much involved with very good youngster team, and he's having a campaign of Blue, and almost 200 300 students are there who are volunteer with him, and in fact they have a lot of energy and they want to do a lot of things. A right direction is required, like so that they can do the things in a right manner for the climate change and get awareness for that. So probably do share, we will see that how we can work together. And moreover, like as I briefed before also, in Rotary Club of Baroda Greens. This is the club only like focused for green projects, and we want to change the definition of green for the society in the way like they normally know that tree plantation is the green work that they are doing. So we want to change the definition. There are many other things beyond plantation that can be done for the society. So we are having Healthify Slum as one of the project. Urban forestation is also there, that is there, and we are actually organizing one contest, that Green Crusader contest. For that also, I would actually approach you and see that if you can be helpful as a knowledge partner with us. So that will be a great association.
Definitely, it will be my
Yeah.
pleasure. Congratulations to you
Yeah.
for doing all these activities.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, Rashni ji, you were the team leader for the project of developing a roadmap for the implementation of energy conservation building codes in Maharashtra. Can you explain while drafting these how practical we are and how can we implement this roadmap for the whole country?
Uh, I think the roadmap is very important. Like that was the idea I explained to you before, that many of the policies they are announced and the roadmap doesn't exist. So roadmap is somewhat to a certain extent like a recipe. So if you want to make a cake, you know, you need so much maida, you need so much so, and how to mix them, etc., etc. So that's exactly. So if you want a policy of this nature, like energy conservation building code to be implemented, then what skills are required, which are the actors or the stakeholders, those were identified. So the first step that we did was to identify the primary stakeholders, the secondary stakeholders, and the third tertiary stakeholders at all levels. So these stakeholders have to be activated. Like in the government, there are certain agencies. Like in the case of ECDC, it was the Urban Development Department, because they have to, they have to implement it through the development control regulations. And the other government agency is the energy ministry. So we connected with the energy development, the Maharashtra Energy Development Agency. So that these are the primary two actors. But apart from that, we have the PWD, we have a whole lot of government sectors which are involved, like even MERC, the Regulatory Commission. Because if you have to give penalty for those who do not implement the code, or if you have to give some incentive for those who implement the code well, then the Regulatory Commission will have to be involved. What should be the fee or penalty or anything like that? So you have to identify all the stakeholders who are involved in this, and then take them together, go through a huge process of how to do this. Then a lot of capacity building is required. Okay, so we will need, if Maharashtra is going to have 1,000 commercial buildings in a year or so, then how many architects will be involved? So we make a provision for training as many architects, and then a system for implementing it. So in this particular case, a third party assessment system was involved, because among all the systems that were analyzed for implementing a policy, we found that this was the most simplest, and which did not involve too much dependency. Having said all these things, we prepared a very detailed roadmap. We even prepared a green building policy for the state of Maharashtra. Everything was submitted, but a lot of it depends upon the political will,
Hmm.
and people to take it forward. So unfortunately, when we had finished with all our work, and we wrapped up the project, the government changed, and a little bit of what only we have done has been taken forward, not the
Oh.
whole thing. So, however, I think the process is very important of developing the roadmap, because every stakeholder needs to be involved in developing something. I really believe that then only something can be successful.
Yeah, that's very true. Time is running out. One question that is very close to me, and I'm always concerned, I'll take that question first. In Eco Nivas and Eco Housing, like I was just attending one webinar on the Eco Nivas session. So we still are following certain norms from Western countries. For example, in Eco Nivas criteria, I observed insulation is the major criteria, where we are taking concern of heat transfer after the building is heated up, but the approach should be to reduce the heating of building at source itself. So normally I say that if we use high SRI coatings for the roof and walls, so we stop the heat generation itself at the building envelope part only. But I always see that this part is not being taken, and it's normally insulation that they are considering. And especially, I think like you have done some project with the walls also. So in the wall also, like the reflective paint actually gives a very good impact in the cooling part, and reducing the heat generation at the wall level. So do you agree with this? Would you like to add to what is the actual approach for these criteria drafting for eco nivas or eco housing or ECBC? So I'm always concerned, like इंसुलेशन लेंगे वो लोग बिकॉज वो वेस्टर्न से आ रहा है, गर्मी हो जाएगी, रूफ और वॉल गर्म हो जाएगी, उसके बाद आप या तो इंसुलेशन लगाओगे और या फिर उसको डबल वॉल करके उसका कॉस्ट इंक्रीज करोगे. बट व्हाई
Mm.
नॉट टू हैव हाई एसआरआई मटेरियल्स being used so that the heat is not generated at the envelope itself?
So very important point you have made, and I'm involved with in several projects. There was a project that currently involved in a DST project on developing energy efficient walling materials. So there also we are doing a lot of research here with Godrej Construction, and there are some projects that I have personally also done on this. So, and I have done a lot of research also in this subject. This is one of the areas of my research. So, yes, if you are able to stop the heat from coming in, that is the first thing to do. And this is also there in our traditional architecture. Barriers is one of the first principle. So, if you are stopping the heat from coming inside, then you are first of all doing a lot of saving energy saving in the first place. So any kind of high albedo paint or any kind of reflective material is certainly very useful in in doing that and achieving that, and it also in calculations. Like if the SRI is zero point 0.5, then we immediately in our calculations we put 50% in energy reduction or heat gain reduction right away. So that is something that people should understand, that itna heat aayega hi nahi andar. So how much then you can do further other things as well inside. You can have
Yeah.
barrier systems. You can have better U value, thermal
Hmm.
low thermal transpitance
Hmm.
material. uh, you can do all of that. And about insulation also, I agree that yes, this has come from Western countries. You are probably aware that the committees that existed for ECBC, they
Yeah.
had a whole forum from the insulation industry,
Yeah.
which guided the ECBC, unfortunately. And therefore, these things are there. However, we need to think about our country. The situation is different. The cost of insulation is also quite high, and
Yeah.
especially for a common man, maybe it is not advisable, not affordable. They might just put another roof on top in order to
That's
reduce the
true.
heat,
That's
which is
true.
what people are doing.
Because see, we have a product for wall plaster also, insulated wall plaster, and insulated roof plaster, roof screed also, but we are not able to pitch that to a normal person or a normal developer. मतलब इट्स लाइक ये तो ग्रीन बिल्डिंग के ही काम का है, बिकॉज वहां पे उनको आर वैल्यू चाहिएगी. But tragedy when we are talking about affordable housing or the eco nivas, when I saw the norms, there also they are asking about like wall के अंदर insulation कैसे हम fit करें, because they are not considering जो low cost है, high albedo है, जो ज़्यादा impact Indian climate के according दे सकता है, तो why not to take that thing. तो दैट वाज माय कंसर्न, एंड मैंने जब आपका इको ईसीबीसी का ड्राफ्टिंग में देखा तो मुझे लगा ये तो क्वेश्चन पूछना है कि हाई सारे को क्यों नहीं हम लोग भी कंसीडर. अभी भी ऐसा होता है कि दे आर आस्किंग कि आर वैल्यू कितना होगा, ये कोटिंग लगाने से आर वैल्यू में कंट्रीब्यूशन कितना होगा. बट अब वो आर वैल्यू का कंट्रीब्यूशन वैसे है, बट लॉजिकली यू कैन नॉट गिव ऑन पेपर्स कि यस इसका हाई सारा है तो आर वैल्यू भी है.
तो
तो
इसमें क्या होता है, in this calculation q the total heat gain can be given, and
या
you can directly reduce the amount of heat gain by the value of your albedo. That is, if it is SRI is 0.5, then straight away 50% is gone, and then remaining 50% को आप देखो कि कितना transmittance होता है material का. So I have done calculations on this also when we have done use of high albedo paint. So वहाँ पर how to calculate it and how to get the total heat gain inside. So and it is low cost. So always
या
I try to think that materials which are low cost should be promoted, because everybody can have access to it. Energy efficiency should not be very affordable only for the rich.
Yeah. So we had a great time, Roshni ji, and I would like to have some message for my audience as a sustainability practitioner and as an academician and doing a lot of work for the environment. So, just like from your heart, what exactly you would like to communicate with my audience?
I think I'm sure that everybody feels something about nature, about environment, and one should do whatever little one can in their day-to-day life for environment. That,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks a lot. It has been great session, and once again I thank all the audience from bottom of my heart. And stay tuned. We'll be bringing more and more all the green stakeholders. We'll also bring other green technology providers in front of you, and we'll have a good green talk series in the coming times. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Roshni
Thank
ji,
you.
for being with
Bye.
us. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks